Hey, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. I hope you've been enjoying the Olympics. I know I have. Trying to control my addiction because I've got plenty of stuff to do at the moment. But I just thought hopefully you've been interested in hearing my insight into how the Olympics might teach us a few things about property. So I was reading the paper the other day and it was actually talking about Michael Phelps. You may know that he's won crazy amounts of gold medals and he seemed to have worked out this whole Olympic things pretty well. And so what I was interested to hear though is he actually has modelled himself on Ian Thorpe, and so he'd actually became infatuated with him. To be honest, it seemed like because he'd seen the way the success that Ian Thorpe had had, and he just really loved the way that he went about, not just the way he went about his pool manner, like how he swam, but also the way he communicated, the way he presented himself outside of, swimming, when he was talking to people in interviews or whether just talking to people in general. And so he started to become infatuated with him. Like I said before, he started to look at everything he did and was like, well, how did he get to be where he wanted to be? And now, how can I get to that point too? Because I want to have that success that Thorpe has. So he basically, any opportunity he could, he'd try and study him and look at everything he possibly did. He to the point of, what he has for breakfast, the way he moved, the way he did certain things. He also, just a crazy little thing, but he found out once that in the morning on the way in the drive into the swimming training session, he used to listen to the radio, and the last song he heard on the radio before he went into his swimming session was the song that he'd use during his training session, and he'd just sing that song over and over and over during his training session. So Michael Phelps then said, okay, cool, if it's good enough for Thorpe, then it's good enough for me. So basically did exactly the same thing. He put on his radio, listened to the radio until he found the last song just before he pulled into the car park. And he picked that song as the song he was going to sing over and over in his head as he was swimming up and down the pool. So you can sort of see how, it seems a bit bizarre, but the crazy thing is if you want to achieve the success that somebody else has achieved, then you've sort of got to think like them. You've got to be like them. You've got to assimilate with them, I suppose, and that was his plan, and that's where he wanted to get to. And just by doing that, you can see, slowly over time, he's sort of. And I know from my experience, I used to do music at uni and stuff like that, so I used to do like a jazz course, and exactly the same thing happened there. If you want to learn to improvise, if you want to learn to be able to create, amazing music, you started by copying what other people had done in the past. You started by imitating, almost to the point you'd imitate them exactly, so you sounded exactly the same as they did, and then you'd pick another person to imitate, and you'd copy them so much, you'd spend hours and hours and hours of trying to replicate that sound and the way they, particular phrasing they had and the way they breathed and everything about what they did. You tried to copy it so you almost sounded identical to them, and you'd switch from one musician to another musician, and over time you'd imitate and imitate, and still at a certain point in time you build that skill base. And because they spent all their years trying to build that knowledge and experience from them imitating other people, so essentially what you're doing is they've got years of collective wisdom from the people they're modelling themselves on, and then you get to take a piece of that, and then you can model yourself on that, and you can use that collective wisdom that they've used, and then you can enhance it, and you can add to other role models, and you can build on it. So same sort of thing as what Michael Phelps has done with Thorpe, and obviously you can see he would have then modelled himself on other people after that, but he's just evolved and continually, but rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and learning everything from scratch, he's looked at what other people have done and tried to imitate before he can create for himself. And so same sort of thing goes with property. I know it sounds a bit bizarre, but look at success that other people had, and even if you don't have access to those people, in this case, Michael Phelps, he didn't have access to, he couldn't ring up Thorpe and say, hey, what are you doing? What song do you listen to when you're swimming up and down? All that sort of stuff. So he basically had to try and take any piece of information he can and use that as his picture into his world, essentially. And so same sort of thing I would suggest to you. If you've got the opportunity, obviously if your role model was somewhere close, then obviously just take him out to lunch or to buy him a coffee or give him a call on the phone and just have a chance to have a chat to him, or things like this, watching people on video and just trying to see what they have to say and trying to, not everything's going to apply to you, but you'll be able to pick up certain things about what they say and the nuances and the way they think about things, and that might help you sort of shape your thoughts and philosophies and shape the way you view property or view investing in property or even analyze property. So that's probably my tip today. So if you do have, if you want to achieve success of a particular person, if you don't have the ability to reach out to them, it might be Richard Branson, or it could be anyone really, but, try and access information, or try and access as much information to try and get into their world, even if it's only in a small part, and try to model yourself on the way they've handled themselves. Because if they've achieved success, and then you just model yourself, and even just in a small way to how they've achieved themselves, then you're going to have a chance to try and get to that success as well. And likewise, then what you can do is have the other role models as well, and slowly pick out little pieces, put them all together, and you can start create your own personality, your own style of investing that makes sense to you and becomes logical, I suppose. So, it's not about being the same as somebody else. It's just trying to take the good bits that you can see other people do, and then there's probably flaws you'll see in their character. Then you can choose to disregard, and then you can take out all the good bits, and you can do that to multiple people. And then likewise, then you'll start to put your own personality and your own creativity and your own viewpoint, I suppose. And that can apply to property just as well as it can apply to music, or it can apply to swimming, or any particular vocation you're trying to get really good at, basically. So rather than reinvent the wheel, just look at what other people have done, and try and take a piece of that and then use it to your own advantage. So hopefully that's made sense, and if it made sense to you, or it's you can see how that's going to help you improve and help you get better at this, either investing in property or your sport or music or whatever it happens to be, then feel free to click on the like button. If you haven't liked it, still click on the like button anyway, because I'd really appreciate it. And if you know someone that's thinking about getting into property investing, but they're not really sure how to do it, and they're a little bit apprehensive, then click on the share button. I'm sure they'll find it interesting, just to understand it is possible to go out there. You don't have to necessarily have someone that can hold your hand through the process. You can still model yourself on other people without actually having that other person at your beck and call. So, and if you've got something you'd like to talk about, if you've modeled yourself on a person over time, then click a comment in the comment box. I'll be really, really interested to see your experiences, your thoughts, and if you've got something else you'd like me to talk about, I'm happy to chat about that too. So I look forward to talking to you again soon, and thanks for joining. Bye.